Hi guys and girls, I'm Karel Seegers. I said girls because there aren't enough females watching these videos. Contrary to the real world where I have a majority of females in my classes and as clients, it turns out that there's a majority of males watching these videos, and I'd like to see a little bit more parity there. So in today's video, we will review a logline. I said I wouldn't do this until we'd worked our way through this pile, but apparently some of you really like those logline reviews, so they're back. So we'll do one logline today, and then we'll go through two of the books, and then there'll be only one more video with two final books next time. That may be tomorrow, maybe another day. But let's first look at the logline for today. When a family is listening to the television that says the words, "One small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind, comma, a mysterious figure in a spacesuit steps in their house to tell them the truth about the moon landing." My fellow logliner Near Shelter thought I've been going too soft on previous loglines, so let's take a somewhat tougher stance. This is 100% my opinion. First of all, this logline would be rejected instantly. I would not even think about reviewing it if I were a professional who does that for a job. Why? Because there's a spelling error. A spelling error that could have been picked up by any spell checker. A mysterious figure, mysterious with an I. Mysterious must be written with a Y. I assume that the writer, Cesare, is Italian, but that cannot be an excuse. Film is an international industry. I'm Belgian, and you need to comply with the standards. And the standards are that you need to spell correctly, particularly if you're going to send out your work. So first of all, spell check everything you send out. That's the first step. This stuff jumps out and we're distracted and we're not even focusing on what matters. So what does matter? The logline itself. Now, I like the setting. The year is stated very simply. It only takes 5 or 6 characters if you count the space. Now, it's not essential because the first moon landing, if you're into that, that was in 1969. So it is redundant if you state the year. So you could easily say when family is watching, because television we watch, radio we listen to. When a family is watching the first moon landing, you can leave out the quote. And if you quote someone famous, if you reproduce a famous quote, that needs to be correct as well. There's a spelling error or there's a typo in this quote as well. Armstrong didn't say one small step for a man, he said one small step for man. And admittedly, that was a mistake in his own right, but it was a famous mistake. And when we quote Armstrong, we quote him with the mistake. We don't say a small step for man. We say one small step for man, comma, one giant leap for mankind. But even the quote you don't need for the concept of this film. So you can easily say, while a family is watching the first moon landing, a mysterious figure in a spacesuit steps into their house to tell them the truth about the moon landing. We're looking for 3 elements. We're looking for character, event, and action. Character, you might argue that's the family because the event is happening to the family. However, if you're a beginning screenwriter, and I assume Cesare is, you tell a story about one character. It is very difficult to tell an ensemble character. So as a first screenplay, as a first story, don't go there. Okay, so be specific. Who's going to be the main character? Which member of this family is going to be central? All right, so that needs to be fixed. One character. Then what's the event? It's the person stepping into the house and telling them the truth about the moon landing. Now, we don't know what that means, telling the truth. What is that, what does that entail? So the event is not clear. I don't see how this sets up a story. Even less a horror story, which this is supposed to be. So that's the problem with the event. Now, the problem with the action is that there's none. This logline only has a vague character and an event, but no action. So it fails on all levels. And action is absolutely critical, as we will see in a minute when we're looking at the first screenwriting book for today. So to summarize, not a very successful logline. It needs work on every level. So maybe read some good examples, read the feedback you get on this site, which is logline.it, And, try your hand on writing loglines for existing movies. See if you can do that first, post them, see what feedback you get before you do your own. All right. And when you post your own, please do give some feedback to 2 other loglines as a matter of courtesy. That's it for today. That was a logline. We're going into the screenwriting book review. Or it's not really a review. I just tell you which books I like and why. I mentioned action. Action is central in Aristotle's thinking about story, or was central to Aristotle's thinking. Aristotle was the first thinker who ever wrote about story, and David Mamet, among many others, still maintains that you don't need to study anything else. Just reading and understanding the Poetics is enough. Now, the problem with the Poetics is that it was written in ancient Greek. I studied Greek in high school, but never read the Poetics, and even less studied its importance or its impact on story writing. So I rely on Michael Cherno's Aristotle for Screenwriters, Aristotle's Poetics for Screenwriters. Now the book is it's not a very thick book. It's only about 167 pages to be precise, and I struggled with it because I think there's tons lost in the translation, or maybe even it's hard to really understand what Aristotle meant in terms of story structure, because we have other paradigms, we have other terms about story. Now, Cherno did, he made an effort, and an honorable at that. I take away 2 major things. One comes from the introduction, and it states the importance of the action idea. And I'm going to quote what Cherno wrote in that introduction. He says, Aristotle teaches us to think of action as the idea of a story. And I fully agree with that. In fact, he says that action is more important than people, that is, characters. And so does Mamet. He says, characters are defined by their habitual action. And I fully subscribe to that. You cannot show a character or what a character is really about without showing their actions. So actions are absolutely central to any screen story. Now, there's a second quote that I wanted to give you. This is chapter 18. And the title of that chapter is Whatever Causes the Action Better Be Up There on the Screen. Now, when he says causes the action, we understand that as the major event or the inciting incident or the call to adventure. And that needs to be on the screen. So in Aristotle's thinking, it needs to be part of the story. And in screen story, that inciting incident, call to adventure must be on the screen. We as viewers need to be able to witness it from the point of view of our main character. In that way, we experience the same emotion and we understand the action that follows. So the major event, the inciting incident, is a motivating event for the main action. So it must be on the screen. So for those 2 reasons, maybe check out Aristotle's Poetics for Screenwriters by Michael Cherno. And then, my favorite screenwriting book, Paul Golino, Screenwriting, the Sequence Approach. And Paul Golino was a student of Frank Daniel. So central to his thinking is dramatic tension. The phrase that Frank Daniel coined was stories are about characters wanting something and having difficulty getting it. So that is the tension between what the character wants and what the character gets. And Golino builds on that. It's a great book. It only contains 20 pages of theory, and the rest are analyses of great movies, 10 movies that you should have all seen. And so he breaks them down into acts and sequences, and he explains the thinking behind it. And I think it's probably the most useful book to define what acts are and how acts are driven by objectives, by characters' goals, and what they do to achieve those goals. So, hidden structure of successful screenplays. Golino works primarily with the 8-sequence structure, which is a very effective structure, one that you can use easily with the 3-act structure or the 4-act structure or the hero's journey. So a great complement to any screenwriting book or manual collection. That's it for today. We have 2 more books to go, 1 more video, and there'll be a logline next time as well. If you like these videos, please subscribe and push the bell button. That way you'll be notified next time there's a new video. And if you have any thoughts, comments, feedback, please put them in the comments lower down the page. And maybe tell us, what are your favorite books? And do you agree with what I said about the ones that have been discussed here? So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again for our final video in this series. Bye.